They had catalogued humanity as a statistical inevitability: carbon-based, tool-using, war-prone, ambitious, contained. The Galactic Council had watched Earth for 3 centuries before officially acknowledging it. They observed radio waves bleed into vacuum, saw cities bloom and burn, measured nuclear flashes and the long, anxious quiet that followed. They studied humanity the way one studies a volatile chemical, useful perhaps, but best kept sealed. When the Council finally sent envoys, they did so with confidence born of 10,000 compliant civilizations. The Council's authority stretched across 7 spiral arms. It regulated trade lanes, controlled access to jump corridors, and enforced the prohibition edicts. No independent superluminal weapons, no unlicensed gravity manipulation, no exotic matter experimentation. Member worlds prospered under its guidance. Those who resisted were reminded. Humans were expected to sign. They did sign, eventually. But they did not comply. At the first summit in orbit above Jupiter, a vast council station unfolded like a metallic flower. Its petaled docks shimmered with shield harmonics. The station's representative, High Executor Thalon of the Varelian Concord, addressed the gathered human delegation through a field of projected light. "You stand at the threshold of civilization," Thalon said, voice modulated into a range comfortable for mammalian ears. "Join us, and your species will be protected, guided, elevated." Human Ambassador Lena Iqbal did not bow. She didn't lower her eyes either. "We appreciate the offer. We prefer partnership to elevation." A ripple of faint electromagnetic laughter passed among the Council observers. Partnership. Every species asked for it at first. The Council provided technology in measured increments: medical nanites that cured plagues, agricultural matrices that stabilized climates, and, most importantly, access to jump gates, immense structures that folded space between fixed anchor points. Humanity absorbed it all with alarming speed. Within 50 years, Earth was no longer a curiosity. It was a manufacturing powerhouse. Mars bloomed under domes and then beneath open sky. The asteroid belt became a latticework of habitats and foundries. The Jovian moons bristled with research arrays. The Council grew wary. Humans asked too many questions. Why were jump gates restricted to Council oversight? Why were certain sectors marked quarantine without explanation? Why were some species' records redacted? Thalon and the other executors assured them such measures were necessary. Stability required authority. Authority required limits. Humans smiled. And then they built railguns. Not the primitive electromagnetic cannons of their early space age, not the experimental orbital mass drivers that once hurled tungsten rods from low Earth orbit. They built railguns that wrapped around moons. The first demonstration was accidental, or so humanity claimed. A rogue asteroid designated Hector 9 shifted unpredictably after a microfracture from a mining operation. Its trajectory intersected a shipping lane frequented by Council vessels. The Council offered to dispatch a gravity tug. Humanity declined. From the dark side of Ganymede, a structure rotated into alignment. It resembled a ring at first, encircling a cratered plane. Then its inner surface ignited in a cascade of blue-white arcs. The projectile was a cylinder of refined nickel iron, 30 meters long, magnetically sleeved and cold. It accelerated along a track 50 kilometers long, guided by superconducting rails embedded in regolith and anchored deep into the moon's crust. Energy drawn from fusion cores buried beneath ice surged into the system. The shot left no flame, no plume, only a streak. Hector 9 ceased to exist as a coherent body. It did not shatter, it vaporized. Fragments dispersed into a fine mist, velocity vectors recalculated in microseconds by human targeting arrays to ensure no debris threatened passing ships. The Council's observers recorded the energy output 3 times before accepting the result. High Executor Thalon transmitted a single query to Earth. Why? Ambassador Iqbal responded from a modest office overlooking the Pacific. We confirmed the cast. The council convened an emergency session. Railguns were not prohibited by name in the edicts. They were considered primitive, kinetic weapons, inefficient at interstellar scales. But this was different. Humanity had scaled an old idea to monstrous proportions. They cannot project that across star systems, insisted Councillor Vesh of the Larafi Combine. Their weapon is bound to mass and line of sight. Today, Fallon replied. Sanctions followed. Access to new jump gate routes was temporarily suspended. Trade tariffs increased. Several human research proposals were denied without explanation. Humanity responded with public compliance and private acceleration. They did not protest loudly. They did not threaten. They built more railguns. Luna gained one first, embedded along its equatorial ridge. Then Mars, then Callisto and Titan. Each installation was disguised as infrastructure, mass drivers for export, asteroid deflection systems, industrial launchers. Only when aligned together did the pattern become clear. A lattice. Humanity was constructing a defensive web across its system, capable of targeting any vector of approach with overlapping fields of fire. The Council debated intervention. Preemptive strike, suggested Councillor Vesh, a limited demonstration to remind them of proportionality. Fallon hesitated. On what grounds? They have not violated a written statute. Intent, Vesh hissed. Intent was difficult to legislate. Instead, the Council tightened economic pressure. Several member species withdrew joint ventures. Human exports were scrutinized for irregularities. Then the incident at Kepri occurred. Kepri was a minor member world on the fringe of Council space, inhabited by a chitinoutinous species that valued art above all else. They had fallen behind in tribute quotas, an unspoken expectation that funded Council fleets. The Council enforcement flotilla arrived to renegotiate. Humanity had a cultural exchange program on Kepri. 3 human engineers and a dozen artists were present when the flotilla's lead cruiser disabled the planet's orbital platforms as a warning. The message was clear: compliance. The human engineers sent a transmission to Earth. It was not a distress call. It was a request for permission. The Council did not detect the incoming projectile until it exited superluminal drift at the edge of the system. Railguns were bound to line of sight, yes, but humanity had been experimenting with relativistic courier craft, small, unmanned craft equipped with micro-jump drives. They could not carry fleets. They could not transport armies. They could carry mass. The projectile that emerged near Kepri was no longer cold. It had spent weeks accelerating between stars, boosted by successive micro-jumps that preserved velocity while bending trajectory. Its final approach vector was calculated by quantum-linked arrays back in Seoul. It struck the enforcement flotilla's lead cruiser amidships. There was no explosion in the traditional sense. At a significant fraction of light speed, matter behaves differently. The cruiser unfolded into plasma. The remaining ships attempted to raise shields, but the second and third projectiles arrived milliseconds later. Humanity had not sent a fleet. They had sent 3 pieces of metal. The flotilla ceased to exist. Across the stars, sensor logs filled with impossible numbers. The Council chamber fell into chaos. "This is an act of war," Vesh roared. Fallon's bioluminescent frills dimmed in shock. "They have circumvented spatial limitations. They have weaponized transit itself." Emergency communiques flooded Earth. Ambassador Iqbal appeared again, calm as ever. "We defended civilians. Kepri did not request enforcement. You imposed it." "You have annihilated Council vessels," Fallon replied, struggling to maintain composure. "You sanctioned yourselves," Iqbal said quietly. "We did not agree to that clause." The transmission ended. For the first time in recorded millennia, the Council faced a member species capable of projecting force beyond its home system without using Council gates. Railguns first.
teleporters next. The teleporters were not what the Council expected. They anticipated matter transmission beams, unstable wormholes, or exotic singularities. Instead, humanity unveiled the relay network. Officially, it was a communications upgrade, a quantum-entangled lattice enabling instantaneous data transfer across vast distances without reliance on Council nodes. Privately, it was more. The relay network allowed precise synchronization between human installations light-years apart. Data targeting, energy modulation parameters, navigation solutions, all could be shared without delay. But there was another layer. The humans had discovered a loophole in space-time. It began as a curiosity in deep vacuum experiments near Neptune. Certain quantum states, when subjected to specific gravitational harmonics, exhibited non-local displacement.